How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of No Excuses on VTWProductions.com and YouTube.com. The favorite show hosts are still
the hater of Windows updates,
and Volatile, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week as we see it. But first of all, if you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com, or you can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw, or you can join us in our Discord server, which is the most easy way to communicate with the show hosts and other listeners to the show. And you can easily get there by clicking on the link that should be provided in the show description from the YouTube archive, or alternatively click on the show logo on any of our show posts at vtwproductions.com.
Yes, indeed. And now it's actually working, unlike that first attempt.
Yep. And I heard us talking when I went over to check, so I think we're good. Well, I heard me and Vol talking. I hope they can hear you, Fern.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they can. I'm getting green lines, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything these days. Oh, boy. So, unfortunately, I'm probably going to be a bit quiet this show, because I've got a cold, so that's fun.
You got the Rona.
I got the Rona, we're all going to die. So, on the stream today, I'm playing a bit of Endless Space. This is a game that I've had been going on for, about 3 hours now. Not super advanced in it.
Are you Horatio?
I am not, actually. I am playing as the Unfallen, which are a race of sentient tree people.
So you just have to overgrow planets instead of actually conquering them.
You don't so much colonize planets as send out your spectral tentacle roots and just ensnare entire solar systems. Like, it takes a while to ensnare it, but once you get it ensnared, you can just colonize the thing freely.
I was pretty impressed at the sort of the diversity and approaches that they've got going on there. Like that, what I expect usually from a 4X is that, oh well, the different races will have different bonuses. Not that they'll have a completely different approach to colonization.
Yeah, hang on, go back to the main menu. I'll actually show you some of the races in this game. A lot of 4X games too tend to take their races from the same molds a lot of the time. Like, for humans, will either be a militaristic force or some sort of technological utopia type dealy. Or occasionally you'll get the Imperium of Man.
I think that in a sense they're all based on humanity, so you could really get anything.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about a successful spacefaring humanity, I tend to imagine the Kaldari from Eve, which is basically like a space hyper-conglomerate.
Yes. Yeah. Whenever you do get a successful humanity in space, it tends to go one of three ways. You got either, basically, the Vajani, which is, not the Vajani, that's in this game. You get the hyper-conglomerate, you get the Shattered Race, where humanity's basically torn itself apart with war, which is probably the most likely, honestly. Or you get the Federation, where everything is hunky-dory for reasons.
Well, and Eve, none of them are very good. They're all human, and none of them are very good.
They're all utter bastards.
Yeah, so, like the Kaldari care about nothing but market forces. The Mimitar are the in Rust we trust ex-slaves.
Yes.
The Imar Empire are like the imperialist religious zealots, and the Galente are the space French.
Yeah, the space French. So in this game, we've got a bunch of interesting races. Like, I've got a few here that are behind paywalls, so I'm not going to be able to talk about them too much. Like, you've got the Imperium is the United Empire is basically the militarized human force. You've got the Unfallen, which are your pacifist trees. Where are they? There they are. That's these guys. You got the Riftborn, who are a transdimensional race of robot people who control time. Vajani apparently turn people into space dust and eat them.
Are they the ones that turned themselves into gaming laptops, according to Seth?
Yes.
The reason we're giving this game a look, by the way, is because Seth made a video.
He is the best salesman for anything.
Yes, even if that game is bad.
Like, I don't like most of the types of games that he likes, but I can't help but want to play them after he reviews them.
Yes.
I might have bought everybody synthetic after he reviewed it.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And so, we'll tangent from this by talking about Horatio. The race Horatio. Which I think is unique among 4X games. And this is a entire race. Possibly race, anyway. I'm not even sure what you'd actually call it at this point. Because, like, I think his actual race is extinct, except for Horatio. But it's an entire empire based entirely on narcissism.
I feel like that if his race wasn't extinct, he would have genetically engineered them all to be Horatio anyway.
Well, he essentially has done that. So, yeah, he was a humble trader of basic means who went out on the galaxy one day to settle a star system with nothing but a small ship and a ludicrous amount of money. He encountered elder technology, or whatever they call it in this one. Ender technology or something. Which basically amounted to ridiculously advanced cloning technology. So he just made some clones of himself to help run his colony. And then he decided, you know what? I'm perfect. I'm going to make the rest of the galaxy perfect as well by making it all me.
That's some pretty impressive level of narcissism right there.
Yes. So
That's like half the narcissism of a Twitch thought.
Yes. So everyone in the Horatio Empire who is not an alien brought in for usually contractual or drudge work is a clone of Horatio Prime, who is worshipped as a god.
But doesn't he splice some Horatio-ness into other races as well?
Yes. Or if he finds an optimal trait in another race, he will splice it into his own genetic code.
But he's already perfect.
But he claims that he doesn't do that because he's already perfect. Horatio Prime is immortal, by the way, somehow. That's never actually explained. Now, the reason I talk about Horatio is because I went to play Endless Space 2 the other day, and clicked on the wrong thing, and somehow discovered that there is, in fact, a Horatio visual novel. Which is called Love Thyself. It's free on Steam if you want to play it.
The name is a parody of Love Plus.
Yes. You start off... You play as a Horatio clone, because of course you do, who is imperfect. You're lacking the memories that every Horatio clone is congealed with, I guess. So you pop out of the tube with no memory, or little memories, and just basically enough skills to know how to read, more or less. And you need to either bluff your way through Horatio School. Yes, Horatio School. And come out the top of the class. Or do what I did and bumble your way around, somehow ending up being part of an underground rebellion. In what I can from what I can gather so far is I'm the cannon fodder. I'm just kind of the guy who's just kind of there, but doesn't really contribute, and nobody really knows why they exist.
You're the red shirt.
I'm the red shirt.
You're the red Horatio.
Yes, aboard a ship with like 2 other Horatio clones, a little green alien, and a trigger-happy spider lady, I think. And on a spaceship which is described as a gigantic space turd. Called, of course, the Narcissus, because of course it is.
How many of them are called the Narcissus, I wonder?
Probably all of them. So, it's an interesting read, actually. I got myself getting caught up in what was going on. It's not fancy, and it's a bit silly, because of course it is. You get interesting takes on their use of pronouns. Like, instead of saying everyone, the Horatio will say every me. Or for me's sake, and things like that. So yeah, it's silly, it's fun, and honestly, if you're looking to kill a few hours, I could, and possibly find some, I guess, tangentially canon lore for Endless Space, you could do worse.
No, they said it is dude probably canon.
Yeah, it is dude probably canon. What have I actually got here? Science. Sorry, gotta do my science. So, yeah. Whoops, no, hang on. I'm doing science wrong. Whoops. The thing I like about Endless Space, actually, is they put so much effort into making the UI look good.
Be actually able to be interpreted by human minds.
Yes, well, that's the thing with a 4X game, is you spend so much time looking at the UI.
Imagine if it was like Monster Hunter.
Oh. I mean...
Please, Japan, never make a 4X game. Ever.
SMT4. Yeah, Japan, sorry. As much as we love your games, your UIs suck.
Please, never, ever. Also, apparently, Weedlord 420 has been banned from the Endless Space 2 wiki.
Why?
Well, he sort of outed himself.
Yeah. It says moderator note, yes, this is Seth. Yes, he has been banned for vandalizing the wiki.
Little does he know that that was only bait.
You have no idea what sort of monster you've created, sir.
They have not managed to undo all of his edits, though, on a cursory look.
Because they are all gradually replacing themselves. Because having produced that video, he now has a legion of disciples.
Well, yeah, you go to the Endless Space 2 reviews now, and it's Hey Seth here, all the way down now.
I was like, hey, people, Reciteer.
I'm glad he hated on the parts of Reciteer I hate on. Except you didn't hate on the little girl enough. Stupid little girl. Demon child.
I need to replay that game at some point.
Capitalism, ho!
Oh.
So yeah, Endless Space 2, I'm going to say give it a go as well if you're into 4X space games.
I've never played a space 4X game.
They kind of run the spectrum, like some of them are very hands-on, like your Sins of the Solar Empire. It's actually closer to real-time strategy than 4X, but it has enough of the 4X elements to kind of give it that label. You've got Stellaris, which is a really long-form one.
How bad?
Which type of 4X game isn't long form?
About to say, I've never played a 4X game, period, that hasn't taken days and multiple sessions to finish.
There is one I played a while ago. It's another space one. I forget what it was actually called, but it was what they called a speedrun 4X game. And you could do the game in about half an hour.
How?
I have no idea how it actually worked, but yeah, everything was just so quick. Like, instead of sitting around for 3 or 4 turns doing nothing, it was like, one turn, there's your research, off you go, here's your new ship, go.
The way you play a 4X game is you get all your buddies together, everybody turns on some movie they want to watch, and they all watch it while they wait on one guy to go, I'm still thinking about it, hang on, I'll finish my turn in a minute.
And then they desync.
And then it'll desync, yeah, inevitably.
Then maybe after multiple sessions, you get 3/4 of the way through a game. If everybody's still desynced, everybody's still synced, everybody forgets about the game and gives up because it took too long.
That's the big thing about 4X games is if they tend to desync a lot. And I have no idea why.
Because somebody will always forget to save the local copy to the right folder or something. It's almost always user error.
Yeah. Or someone's got a really dodgy internet connection or something.
Well, it's usually because nobody knows exactly how they're supposed to ensure that it doesn't screw up.
Yeah.
Cess reviewed a couple of other similar types of games in the past as well, like RimWorld and Star Sector.
So,
RimWorld screwing up is the name of the game.
So, I have not played a Space 4X game. How intro to Space 4X friendly is Endless Space 2?
I'd say it's very friendly. You can set how tutorial heavy it is.
Well, how friendly it is like 90% based on how good the AI, the UI is.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you can see the information, eventually you'll figure out what it means. The problem is when games don't present the information you need.
Yeah, that's kind of why I don't recommend people start with Stellaris for that, because they keep changing things as well, admittedly, but their UI can be a bit dense. Like, once you know where everything is, it makes perfect sense, but just figuring all that out. Endless Space will tutorialize everything. Like, hang on, I might actually kill the tutorial. There we go, get rid of that. And you can
I'm attempting to load up WeLord 14's message history on archive.is because they purged it off.
Let me
But
see. What's in bureaucratic imbroglio? Oh, okay. It's basically just clog up their diplomatic channels with complete bollocks. Let me see. I can give them gifts. So yeah, it is very friendly. The fact that the UI is so very slick and easy to use will help a lot. So if you want a good beginning and good entry point, it's Endless Space 2 is probably a good one to go for.
Yep.
It is a bit hefty on the DLC though.
Yeah, that was a big turnoff. I wasn't even after Seth's video. I was like, I might scoop it if it's on sale or it's cheap. And I looked at all the DLC. I'm like, where did he recommend I stop DLCing again?
Yeah. Like, once you get the races, then you should be okay. There's a whole bunch of soundtrack DLCs in there you can skip.
Yeah, obviously. Every game has those now on Steam.
Yes. Let me see. Can I compliment this guy? No, I cannot compliment the transdimensional time robots. Not yet.
Well, so you can unlock complement transdimensional time robots.
Yes, technically, yes.
What the heck is Digital Deluxe Edition?
Ugh, I hate the whole concept of the Digital Deluxe Edition. I find revolting.
Yeah. I think in this case, it's a few soundtracks and a set of ship skins.
But I don't care about any of that. How much is just the base game and all the necessary DLC to play without ruining the game?
Yes. See, that's the other thing, is on as great as this game is, and as much as I talk it up, it is also published by Sega.
Yeah.
I don't... See, Sega's weird. Like, we really should hate them a lot more than we do, but it's kind of like hating a rather stupid puppy. Like, you can't blame it for what it's doing. It's just what it does.
I can blame them for it. If a stupid puppy poops on the carpet, you slap it on the butt and tell it no, and stick its nose in it and shovel the poop outside and make it watch you do it.
Only half of that is actually right, but okay. Yeah, if you rub your dog's nose in the poop, then I'm going to have to kick your ass, because damn, you're doing a really bad thing there. Yeah, but Sega, they just have that fear of money and success, honestly. And when they do DLC something, they just kind of DLC it out the wazoo. All out the butthole.
I don't know, that seems to be, as much as anything else, a 4X thing.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I do tend to sprawl.
Has a bajillion DLCs too.
They take the expand and apply it to their DLC policy.
Yes.
I mean, if you look at, like, Crusader Kings 2 or something.
Crap, just look at, like, Civ 4 or something.
Well,
yeah,
really
Civ 4. Civ 5 is getting up there too now.
Aren't they up to Civ 6?
Civ 6 is old now, isn't it?
Yes. They put out their global warming DLC.
Yeah, Civ 6 came out 4 years ago, dude.
Yeah. It's also getting there.
I only ever made it to Civ 4.
Admittedly, I did fork out for the Australia DLC, because on a coastal map, Australia is overpowered as hell.
Like in Risk.
Yes. As long as you don't declare war on anyone, because otherwise you get nerfed into the ground.
No, what happens is the guy that gets Australia as a starting base, every single person within attack range just declares a mutual peace treaty until Australia territory is taken. And then it becomes a constant battle every turn of the game.
Yeah. What am I doing here? You go there. Go do a science.
Go do a science.
Yeah, my tentacles finish next turn. So yeah, it's a great game, but yeah, as far as DLC goes, if you go with the base game and...
Well, there is no base game. There's only Digital Deluxe Edition.
Oh, they've taken just the base game away now, have they?
Not that I can find.
Let's see.
That's a mean trick, that one.
Oh, yeah.
and they want $40 for the digital deluxe edition. But the thing is, I don't know what digital deluxe means.
Yeah. So let's see. The starter pack actually has a story pack in it. It's got a couple of. It's got 2 story packs, the base game, which is also the digital deluxe. It's all just one thing now, I guess. And it's got 2 soundtrack packs.
Don't care about those.
Nah.
That's too complicated.
These just add more soundtracks to the game. I'd just say buy all the DLC a la carte. Like, if you get the base game and then just pick up the race you want to play.
Well, the thing is, if you want to play a multiplayer, what are the constraints on mutual compatibility?
No idea.
See, that's the big question.
Yeah, that's the other
big
thing.
question. Because
inevitably, the only way I would actually play this is if Fern's sitting there next to me to tell me what the heck stuff means, and when I can't figure it out from the UI.
Yeah.
I don't think Fern's got a spare 6 hours.
Yeah, I don't.
He would need more than 6.
Well, I'm talking about explaining the basics.
Yes. See, them's his pirates. Don't let them in your system.
Yep. According to Seth, you just pay them off.
You can pay them off and just send them off. Although I have a pirate system on the edge of my base here, and I'm going to blow them up. I'm supposed to be tree-loving hippie trees. Wait, hang on.
But if you're a tree, can you still get mobile suits?
Yes!
What?
How does that work?
I have no idea. But you can build tree tanks. Yeah. Anyway, it's a good game. Check it out. It is pricey, though, so I'd say wait for it to be on sale.
Yeah, I'm not going to get it.
Seems like the sort of game that will have a big, deep discount sale where they try and, get another market when they realise that their total package price is inflated to a ridiculous degree.
Yeah. Speaking of tree tanks, there's the technology for them.
If you're lucky, it might even have the base game appear free for a while or something.
Some of them do that, yeah.
Like, I know that I picked up Crusader Kings 2 on one of those things. Not that you can play the base game because it's got like 5 billion expansion packs.
Yeah. That's a very complicated game as well.
How can we walk on a gas giant? Very carefully.
You can colonize gas giants, which is really cool. I like that. Alright, Vol, your week, sir, please.
I don't really have much to talk about. It was a busy week at work, and it's Guildfest on FGO. So those tiny slivers of time that I'm not working or asleep, I have been attempting to farm lotto boxes. So yeah, I don't have much to talk about. I'm more or less settled into a pattern of I'm going to just skip all the challenge quests, because on balance, with the small amount of free time I have available, if I devote that to solving the challenge quests, that will basically mean I've got no time to farm lotto boxes, and that's just more valuable to me as a player. Like, in terms of long-term value, I'm going to get more out of it, because I'll be able to defer my next batch of QP farming, for instance, for a little while.
Have you gotten any of the actual shop items, or are you just going for the lotto boxes?
I've gotten some of the shop items because I don't have a catch all this build solves all problems like you do. So I have to do whatever is practical for me to do in the time I have available. And sometimes that's a stage which drops items other than lotto tickets. So I have gotten a few of the shop items, but my priority is the boxes.
Okay. Because I went for the boogers when I had time in the mornings, because giant rings are on boogers.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes, just what?
You can get giant rings from burgers.
From burgers, right.
The
I think I already bought those out. In fact, I think I bought out all the burger things, but I'm not sure. I have to check.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm basically just using this as a farming exercise to get ahead of the game on my next batch of farming things like EXP. Like, I've got lots and lots of servants that just haven't been leveled up because I don't. There's not much, hand farming time in between events these days, so they're not really getting leveled up. And there are some particular ones that I want leveled up for various purposes, like Mysterious Heroine XX, for instance, that will give me a single target foreigner, which I didn't have before. I only had a multi-target, although or you hit so hard that she might as well be a single target. But yeah, so I'm mainly focused on the lotto boxes, and since it's the lotto ticket farming stage this round is all assassins, I can quite easily build a team that can three turn it. So I'm pretty much focusing exclusively on that for this round after picking up the gold apples. So yeah, I haven't really done much else other than that. I've played a little bit of Final Fantasy here and there, but not sat down to focus on making progress in any particular quarter of that. I just sat down and was autistic attempting to heal a boss for a while, very badly. It nearly went pear-shaped, even though the fight was really easy. I just can't do MMO healing. No matter how much I try and figure it out, for some reason it just never seems to quite click.
I think it takes a different type of brain than any of us got. Maybe Fern can do it. I don't know. It definitely takes a different type of brain than neither me or Ball has.
Like, I've done it in the past, but
It's something I can get myself to passable at, but I've never ever been good at it. And it takes effort to get to passable.
Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I can't do it. I've done other complex roles in the past. Like, I was in like the top 10 passes on the server during Hellfire Citadel for tanking. And so you need to really pull out all the stops in order to accomplish that. Like, I got through some of those fights taking almost no damage. But when it comes to healing, I can't do it. On any MMO I've ever played, I've never really been good at it. I was passable in Secret World, but other than that, I've never really been able to get to grips with it. But I'll keep trying, because I would like to be able to at least do it a little bit, because sometimes it's the role that you need, and I'd like to be able to at least kind of do it. I'm sort of making things harder for myself, since the easiest one to learn is Scholar by a country mile, apparently. But in terms of mana efficiency for if you're playing sloppily, you'll waste mana. The White Mage is actually the best for coping with sloppy play, since generally speaking, while their heals are all reactive heals, they're still very mana efficient compared to, say, the shielding approach, which gives you more of a buffer for playing like you're bad, but less of a buffer for being overly cautious, which is what I tend to do. So yeah, I don't really have much to report, because this week has more or less gone down the drain between Guildfest and my work week. But unfortunately, Guildfest is still going to be here for another 7 days or something like that, and then it will be over. And I don't know what's coming next. Probably Halloween rerun, which is
Something like that.
That's another mission type one, I think.
If it's the one with Mecha Ellie.
Yeah.
And
I'm trying to remember the quest structure, and it's like you unlock different tiers of the castle at one at a time, if I recall.
I think it's like K and K.
But yeah, I feel like my lineup has managed to round out a few gaps since this time last year. So maybe it will be easier for me this time, just to blow through it.
At least you don't have to try and farm Ozzy this time. Oh, that was 2 years ago now, wasn't it? Man, time flies nowadays.
Yeah, that was round one, Ghouls and Ghosts, or Ghosts and Goblins, or whichever one of that it was aping.
Yeah, that was longer than I thought. Man, where'd the years go?
We got old. That's what happened. But yeah, so I haven't really been doing much else. I've continued reading through the Slime books. I think I'm on like book 7 now, or something like that. I can't get a feel for the power curve, because it seems to oscillate wildly all over the place, and like certain people who have been played up earlier in the story to be major threats just get crushed underfoot, because by the time they actually get drawn out into open confrontation, they're either so overconfident, or Rimuru has stacked the deck so far in his favor that it turns out not to be much of a fight in the end. But then there are still people who are on the scale of power who are way out of step with the common sense of everybody else. So yeah, I've become more engaged in the story than I was earlier on, like because the first book the writing was so stilted, but it's gotten a lot better since then. Like you really can see it converging on the way the story is told in the anime. The anime script was clearly put together with the benefit of hindsight, having the story having progressed further and the writer having gotten much more comfortable with the characters and the setting. So yeah, that's still ongoing. Don't really have anything to report from this season's anime, which must be drawing to a close now. That's the feeling I get. I'm not very good at tracking time with these things, but
The only show I hear anybody talk about is Rent a Girlfriend.
I
Yeah.
have no intention of watching that. I did not watch any of it. I just no. But pretty much all of those bizarre romance shows have been have turned into genre exercises. Like even isekais tend to be more original these days
That's saying
than
something.
that genre. That genre is so played out. Like, and they have on top of it, rather than like each isekai only tries to be wish fulfillment. So in that sense, they've got a sort of honesty about them. They're just trying to be wish fulfillment stories. But whenever one of these romance shows, these seasonal popular romance shows comes in, they almost always try to put on some conceit about how they are, more mature and grown up than their competitors, which Isekai never bothers with.
I think you can notice when a season's bad if the seasonal romance show is the one that everybody's talking about.
Yeah, usually, because they usually paint by numbers exercises with
Yeah.
some additional conceit slapped on top.
And it's literally the only thing I've heard about this entire season.
I actually haven't heard about anything this entire season. Like,
well, I say heard about. It's the only thing I've seen on r/good anime meme.
Well, I don't use the Reddits for anything other than FGO, so I don't know about that kind of thing. But yeah, I just haven't seen anybody talking about it. Like you just end up whenever you're in a situation where all of the anime is bad, what invariably seems to happen is that JoJo will just flow in to fill the meme gap. And yeah, all of the memes that didn't happen that season get replaced by JoJo memes.
JoJo is eternal.
He really does seem to be eternal. Generation after generation, there's just always more JoJo.
He is
But,
kind of a meme machine of a show.
Yeah.
I don't know, was it always like that? Was it like that in the early seasons, or did it take itself?
Oh yeah,
I don't know.
Especially from season 3 onward, but it's the earlier seasons had plenty memeable in them as well that I remember floating around.
Yeah.
Speedwagon is first season.
Speedwagon is best girl.
I see. At any rate, this honestly, it doesn't look much more hopeful for the next season. I'm not expecting very much from it. I'm hoping that there'll be some one or two little standouts, but mostly it looks like there's nothing that seems especially engaging. I'll probably watch a bunch of it and we'll just see how it goes. But it seems like they're just they're trotting out a few light novels, a few sequels. Probably there's going to be one or two mobile games in there.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look like it's going to be a showstopper, to be quite honest.
Just flicking down and seeing if there's anything that catches my eye. There's an isekai about a girl who's stuck in a bear costume. Because isekai, I guess. There's one about a 14th century London detective.
Honestly, you get a better storyline. Yeah. You get better storylines from following VTuber drama at this point.
I don't want to think about VTuber drama.
No, definitely not. There's one about trains. There's a few that are just straight up hentai.
Yeah, there'd be more and more of those have been sort of weaseling their way into the mainstream lately.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how or why that's happening.
please stop. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything that immediately jumps out at me really.
Yeah, well, maybe something will emerge that's good, but most importantly, there are no Fate series next season, so I don't care about anything anymore. That's what it comes down to for me. There's not really any that are coming either. There's not any that are approaching, which I find kind of frustrating. The Granddaughter Camelot movie the first part should be coming out at the end of the year ish.
Shouldn't we be getting the Blu-ray for Heaven's Feel 3 at some point?
Well, it hasn't aired in in English in the cinemas. I don't know when exactly the release date was.
It was sometime in August for Japan, I think.
It got postponed several times because of
Yeah, I know. I thought that was the last update, but that might just be the last update Wikipedia had when I last checked. It might have got delayed again.
Yeah, I sort of I was anticipating it, and then I sort of lost track of it because of the no, it actually did premiere in mid-August. It did premiere in the end, but yeah, I don't know where we're at with that, or what the gap will be until the final one comes out. Like, since the Rona has pretty much put the kibosh on the entire cinema industry, I don't know whether or not it will air in New Zealand, which will be disappointing because the second one was just great on a big screen. It's incredible. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But yeah, it looks like anime is still in its deep lull in quality at the moment. This is not anything to write home about. I mean, and not even any Fate series to keep me going. I think that at some point they should just give in and start making all of the singularities that aren't septum. Like, there's at least material to work with there.
Yeah,
but we don't even have localized versions of the manga yet. Like, I think you can get it in Spanish or something, but you can't get them in English. The only one that exists in English is the Prelude one, the Fuyuki Singularity, which is just one volume. But yeah, I actually really like the way because I think the way it's organized is there's two series. One of them is doing like odd numbered singularities, and the other one is doing even numbered singularities. And one is being told with the one set is being told with the male protagonist, and the other set is being told with the female protagonist, or something like that. But yeah, I like the one with the male protagonist because the author decided to just keep the crew together after Orleans. So like here he may hangs around as part of the main cast and actually gets the opportunity to develop some personality.
So you got your waifu.
Yeah, pretty much. But she's actually quite an interesting character when she's actually got writing. You don't see very much of her in the game itself. And there's a lot of like little bits and pieces, like they'll add a voice line to her here and there over the course of FGO's history, which imply that she has character development, but of course none of it ever happens on screen. Like, for instance, at some point, I don't remember at when that actually happened, but they just added a voice line for Kirihime in FGO, which heavily implies that she got over her delusions of the master actually being her former love Anchen at some point, but is pretending that she hasn't for some reason she's not willing to disclose.
Right.
Yeah, so there are sort of, sub stories that haven't gone anywhere there, but because she's such a lunatic, she does make for adding quite a bit of color to early singularities, which just weren't that strong on character writing. So, like, she's like the team cook, for instance. when they're doing their camping out scenes, she tends to be the one who motivates a lot of the discussion because she always wants to convince whoever has arrived on scene to talk about love.
Right.
At any rate, none of this has gotten translated. I don't know whether or not it will be picked up for it, which is strange considering they pick up practically everything that gets released in that franchise and translated to English now, since honestly FGO NA has given the entire franchise a massive lease of life in the West. It's proven that it can print money. So I don't know why they're being so slow to print that particular type of money. But, you know, it's very hard to get Nasu to actually sign anything.
Well, he's got to put down the beer to be able to sign something.
I don't think he's got that much of an alcohol problem. I think that you're conflating Nasu with Zun to a certain extent, who is definitely smashed all the time.
I just assume everybody in that friend circle is smashed all the time after we got their D&D adventure as a terrible anime.
Yeah, I didn't watch that. I watched one episode of it. It was so cringy that I didn't watch anymore. But I hear it just gets worse and worse as it goes along.
Yeesh.
Where you're watching a bunch of famous drunk people that know how to write stories try and play D&D badly.
And it invariably ends up sliding into an incest storyline by the end.
Because of course it does.
Yeah, it can't seem to help itself.
Yes, please stop.
It's pretty awful. Pretty awful. Like that's the thing. Like sometimes a D&D game can go in such a way that would make a really good story if told as a standalone.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time that's not the case. This was not the case here.
Okay, then.
Right, I don't have anything else to talk about because I've pretty much just been, working and sleeping and playing FGO. Although I haven't had enough time to do real lotto box farming like some people do, where they blow all their apples and farm 300, 400 boxes or whatever. Yeah, I don't have that sort of
you're
time.
You're not Mr. No Go Back, I wasn't done yet.
Yeah. Oh, there's a guy on my support list who changed his comment to that when the round rotated to the second round, complaining that no, go back, I'm not done yet, because he was still farming for the previous rounds ones. Which that's a real sentiment those of us who aren't running Scuddy system have, because we can only necessarily we necessarily have to build a team that suits each round. So, I don't know what I'm going to do next round, because the ideal team that I had in mind for next round requires 10-10-10 Jean Archer, but I didn't have anywhere near enough time to find that much ice in QP. So, not really sure what I'm going to do. I may, depending on how much time I calculate it's likely to take, I may in fact diverge from lotto box farming using a slow team to try and push those skill ranks up high enough to use a faster team. We'll just have to wait and see how it goes. Because the next round's lotto box one is an awkward final round where, well, it's an awkward lotto box farm because they're mostly assassins, except round 2 has like an 80-90k hit point Spriggan, which is a saber, and the bosses are Osaka Behime and what's her name? Musashi. So there's not a good team for that unless you can just use a super, super powerful AoE archer to just completely swamp them. And that archer also needs to be able to regenerate her Noble Phantasm after being deployed the second time, based on most arts AoE builds which have looping. So yeah, not really sure. If I had Ryder Mordred, I might also my Ryder Mordred would probably present too many problems with the assassins, even though she's very powerful and a very strong looper. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that the only strong option is to use a looping Jean. Failing that, I could try looping Sieg again, but that would probably require like 2 turns worth of face cards at the end in order to try and, grind off the last bit of Musashi's hit points. And if I get the wrong cards, then it would end up being like 6, 7, 8 turns. So yeah, there's a lot that could go wrong there. I'll figure something out once that round flips over. We will rotate to those final rounds in 3 days' time, I believe. So for now, I can still farm loader boxes.
Yep. All right.
Hmm.
I guess we can transition into my week with that. Yeah, we're not at quite an hour yet.
Yep, go for it.
So I put a little bit of time into FGO. I've not put as much as Vol has probably, but I have Dante Scotty, so that takes care of my team building.
Yeah, he's just doing one team for everything from now on until the end of the game.
Yeah, if there's anything that needs a farming and it has 3 monsters on the first 2 nodes, Dante Scotty is how you do it.
Yeah, I really disagree with them creating metas like that. But you usually can't see them until they're already in the rearview mirror. Like, oh well, we screwed the pooch on that one. That's why I wish they hadn't decided to plump for that whole specific card type buffs. There's too much danger involved when you're moving so many variables at once, because a given command card has, variables of damage, variables of star gen, variables of NP gen, and number of hits. So if you buff that, you're actually buffing a lot of things. It's not like charisma where the only thing that goes up is the damage number. It's you're adjusting multiple knobs if you buff a card type.
Yeah.
So I think that was a reckless decision and has created a lot of sort of degenerate metas, and continues to this very day to generate degenerate metas thanks to Castoria.
Well, at this point, they're sunk into it and need to make money.
Yeah, there's not enough time to turn around and go back now anyway.
Yeah,
But,
they're 3 major zones in the story left to go and touch, and that may or may not be broken up into multiple parts. But yeah, so this event has mostly the only thing that stuck in my head for it, because I really hate these generic farming events, but is Queen of Sheba as the shopkeeper and her horse whinny she does sometimes when you push the button.
I haven't actually turned on the sound since this event started, so I don't know what it sounds like.
Let's see if I can get her to do it. Oh, that's way too loud. But
It is incredibly loud.
It's gonna be way louder than. But yeah, she's like part camel or something.
What?
So occasionally, if you get a good pull from the lotto box, she goes like a horse.
Well, I don't know what noise camels make. I think they just spit at you, don't they?
Well, they kind of make a weird honking, grunting noise.
Yeah,
And then
so
spit at you.
I can't get her to do it. She's not gonna behave. No, she's not gonna behave. I ran out of tickets.
Camel one.
She's a fun character, though. She's going in this event. She's going by her traditional alias from the summer event.
So yeah, I still haven't read through the summer event story, and the only thing I found myself doing to keep the event entertaining is see how many times I can make her do the horse whinny. Every time I pull the lotto boxes.
I only pulled the first 5. I'm just letting the tickets stack up at this point.
I've pulled, I think, 9 boxes so far and got a good chunk of the burger stuff. I keep calling them boogers.
Why?
The burgers, because they're burgers.
Boogers.
Yeah, most people don't associate boogers with food. I don't know what it's like in America, but
Just burger, and it sounds like booger if you say it fast.
I
in
guess.
what country?
So, I've been, I haven't really done very much in it. It's been passive something to do when I literally don't have anything else to do. But this week has been on and off with work. There were 2.5 days that were really, really busy. One day that was completely dead in the office. And another day that was a fairly normal day. So, I don't even know what this week was. It feels like this whole week just disappeared. Like I literally didn't do anything. Because it was such a weird, but at the same time...
It's called getting old.
Yeah. That's just getting old.
don't want to get old.
Too bad.
But thankfully, next week is looking like it's going to be pretty light.
Next week, the rioters will be out in full force again, though.
Yeah, so,
So about that.
I signed up for local poll work and was going to help guard the polls from rioters. And then Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and our county got legitimate threats of violence at the polls. So they said, yeah, we don't need the amateurs anymore. We're hiring professional security.
Oh, boy.
So that sign-up lasted not even 24 hours before I got kicked off. But I was like, I keep talking about how all this stuff's going to get really bad and people need to step up. I need to step up and do something. And not 24 hours after I do, yeah, we need to get the pros in here.
It's too dangerous to do now.
Yeah, this is getting out of hand.
So I still would have shown up.
JPEG.
So now I am in a fairly red county in the middle, or a fairly blue county, but I'm in a red area of it. Like I live next to a horse farm with an emu farm just down the road.
Gotta watch that emu, though.
So, like, I live in the Styx district of the county. So I think we're pretty safe, but they did get a threat of violence as well. So yeah, the U.S. is burning down again. It's about to be.
Yeah.
I haven't checked the riot thread on the farms, but I'm sure it's going strong right now.
Because that's how you bring people back from the dead, right? You riot.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
My country, yeah. So, yeah, there's a whole lot of that. Then the rest of my time, I just kind of derped around in PSO2 with Abo. That's literally where all my time went, and then I went to bed. I went back to work and derped around on PSO2 a little bit with Abo, and then went to bed.
Yeah, I've more or less gone off it now because of the amount of sort of commitment. Like, for me, PSO2 ended up sliding towards the category formerly occupied by Azure Lane that I had just divested myself of. So I thought, you know what, maybe I should not go down that road again.
I don't think I will have that problem with it because 90% of the appeal of that game is the pretty outfits for me. And talking to people in the lobby about their pretty outfits and showing off my pretty outfits and us talking about how pretty they are.
Except that's not what you spend most of your time doing. You spend most of your time accompanying the various shenanigans that Abo gets himself involved in.
We got the ball from the soccer area all the way to Quana.
But why, though?
Because why not? By the end of it, we had the entire lobby helping us.
Yeah, I feel like it becomes an additional time vampire that I don't want, and it's one that I don't feel like I'm making progress on. So yeah, I mean, I know technically I can make, micro scale progress, but that will just be wiped out by the next patch, which will be at the end of the month or something.
Yeah, episode 5 comes out the 30th, I think.
Yeah, thoroughly invalidating anything that I felt I might achieve. So I know that I'm sort of at the point in Final Fantasy where I'm so far behind the curve that everything still feels like progress again, because they have a normal content release rate, and I've got a pile of story content to progress that isn't as bad as the story content in PSO2.
But Simulacrum.
I don't want the Simulacrum.
Stab.
I play with Japanese voice acting anyway, not the dub, not the English dub. So yeah.
But Simulacrum.
Simulacrum. Yes. Wonderful.
In episode 3, the smart character has the best line read for Simulacrum you've ever heard in your life.
Yeah, I don't want to take on another gacha game. I'm still in recovery. So yeah, it's best not to tempt myself with something else that's going to get its hooks in. I do note that the new English hololiver Ninamai says that she plays primarily FGO, but also Grand Blue Fantasy, also Girls Frontline, also Azure Lane, also Arc Knights, and that she's known amongst the hololivers as the Leviathan.
Yeah, that's a good name for it.
Oh man, I have been following a lot of Hololive stuff because I need something to occupy my time, and that doesn't require a whole lot of investment or brain work. And Hololive has been pretty good for that. And I have been fascinated with the degeneration your country has done to poor Hachima.
Yeah, I don't have any excuse for that.
Like,
You can just blame the Liberals in Victoria. It's their fault.
Everything else is their fault.
like this poor girl. I've posted clips of it before, but it just you start far back with her casual, look at me talking funny English haha videos. Oh, look at how cute this is. To let's review my lewds.
Yeah, and it gets madder from there.
Well, when you get locked up, you end up going stir crazy.
Yeah.
And I heard a clip on the radio of the premier of Victoria bragging about how they'd gotten their case count down, and I'm like, yeah, you did probably get your case count down, but now everybody in your state.
Oh, Vol just got censored. Okay.
Yeah, he had a lag spike pretty hard there. Pickleball.
Pickle?
English speaking totalitarian state.
Wow.
Okay, he just there we go. He's catching up again.
Yeah, something's gone horribly wrong there.
I've got a ping.
Oh boy. Try disconnecting and reconnecting, Vol. Because that's really, really laggy.
Yeah, that's gone bad.
But yeah, your country, Fern. Holy crap. I saw a video of the cops bragging about breaking people's windows of their cars.
Yeah, I don't know what that was all about. I actually missed that one entirely.
Yeah, you need to do something about that.
Largely because whenever something from Victoria comes on, I just kind of write it off and say, oh, yeah, it's Victoria.
So yeah. Oh my goodness. What else have I followed with HoloLive to talk about something? Coco hasn't put out very much, so I haven't watched much Coco stuff. Fubuki did a stream that got a good chunk of it surprisingly subbed in English of her commentating on Shion and Marine being late to a stream by 4 hours, and it became like the #1 trending video in Japan.
I see.
And she was just commentating a blank screen. And so she that was surprisingly entertaining to watch. And they subbed a ton of it for some reason. There are clips of it all over the place.
What are we talking about now?
Still on HoloLive.
I think something that seems to be been happening with my wireless adapter lately is that it gets in an argument with my phone over who's got priority. Which is not something I've never heard of. I've never heard of that happening before, but it seems to happen once in a while that my phone will decide it wants to horn in on the same channel, and then they'll fight over it.
Oh, that's great. That's just great.
I see. Yeah, my PS4's been having trouble like that too, but I'm not sure what it's being interfered with by. So I should probably figure that out at some point, but it has trouble connecting to stuff lately. Once it connects, it's fine, but it has trouble finding stuff to connect to these days. Oh dear. What else?
So what's the current topic?
HoloLive.
HoloLive. So have you looked at the 5 English speaking ones?
I hate the Reaper girl.
I think she sounds the fakest.
Yeah.
I know that they're all playing a character, but she seems like a bad theater sports reject.
Yeah, she sounds the most American Valley girl as well.
Well, no, she sounds like a Valley girl trying not to sound like a Valley girl.
Yeah, it sounds really bad.
Wow.
And she's got a really great singing voice. I'll grant her that. And the problem is that she's just bad at playing her character.
Yeah. So, like most people, I think Shark Girl is the best by far so far.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. As much as I think that she's basically being propelled by meme magic at this point, I still think that she's probably actually the best at her job.
And she's clearly, I think she's genuinely nervous and still finding her feet, but she's getting there. Like she appears to have a genuine shy streak where she doesn't quite know what to do with all the attention yet.
I think she also has managed to ape the style of the classic Hololivers better than most of the other English ones. Like I think she's in the same sort of mold as say a Fubuki, where she's able to carry off her role relatively naturally and blend that together with blend together the role that she's playing with what she's actually doing on stream, which is like the Reaper girl, Kelly. She's just terrible at that. She's always either in full character mode or forgetting about her character. She's not. It doesn't have a middle ground, and it doesn't sound convincing at all. The chicken, I think, is going to be a source of memes eventually once she settles into it.
Yeah, I think Watson is trying to play her character too hard when she plays it.
Yeah,
and
she's got a similar problem to Kelly.
I think her character's written a little too strongly. And
yeah, I feel like that's the whole Watson thing is too much of a narrow and concentrated niche. It's not very generic.
Yeah, it kind of pigeonholes her into having to hard play the character the whole time. So I don't think it's entirely her fault. But
she does give off an impression of, oh, you've been cast as this character.
Yeah,
it's not really the case for any of the other ones. Like the Japanese ones, they've got like a fantasy race maybe for those ones that do, and that's about all. And then they can just make up their other attributes on the fly as necessary.
Yeah, or you could take the Akihato route and become Hachima when you realize you just don't want to play the Tsundere anymore and you get locked in Victoria.
Yeah, I feel sort of genuine worry for her because I can't tell how much of it is a character.
At the end, she sings "Country Roads Take Me Home" and it's in English. And at the end of it, she just starts screaming, "I want to go back to Japan. Let me go back to my Japan."
Oh, boy.
Poor Hachima. I'm glad that Watame has become friends with Hachima. She seems to have chilled out a little bit ever since they became friends.
Hey, Watame is a bit weird.
I think she is too, but she's adorable, chill, weird. And she doesn't do anything explicitly memeable or weird except for her crazy face.
And Fern's just shaking his head in disbelief.
This is all just sounding like utter madness to me.
Yeah, I don't really think much of Ninamai either. Like I can't shake off. Oh well, she's just like a combined ripoff of Abby and Ui from FGO, which she blatantly is.
Yeah,
I think she has the same character designer.
I don't know what to make of her. I haven't watched any of her streams yet.
I think that she's supposed to be the bridge between the Japanese fandom and the English fandom.
She has a cool voice.
More importantly, she speaks Japanese and English both fluently, as well as Korean, which I think is why she's in that position. But yeah, she doesn't seem to have much else going for her. She's sort of like she's in the mediocre band of singers as well amongst the Hololivers. She's not good and she's not frighteningly awful like the Watson character is,
or Coco when she's not drunk.
But yeah, Kelly is actually a really good singer, and I think that the Shark Girl is also pretty good, surprisingly good.
Yeah,
but she doesn't have much confidence in her singing at all, but I think it's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I think her lack of confidence might be part of her character. I can't tell at this point.
Well, I think that her character is kind of cute and funny. Like, but whenever she's in trouble in a game, she starts chanting to herself that she is the apex predator.
Yeah. Her fan base has, with Watson's help, devolved into a meme by calling themselves the biggest shrimps.
Just what?
Like some except shrimps.
Yeah, they all are shrimping for their waifu.
Oh boy.
So Watson comes on her streams and goes, "Guar, I'm your biggest shrimp." and donates like $20 to her. And this has snowballed out of control in her fandom.
I thought Kiara was going to be the meme engine initially, but it seems like Guar has become the meme engine.
Yeah. Also,
I can't tell if that was. I can't tell how intentional that was, but they sure ran with it as though it was planned.
I think it was genuine nervousness, and she just let out a noise, and people ran with it.
Fern has no idea what we're talking about, but
No.
basically, the very, very first stream I think it was for Guar is like, because normally they have a loading screen. Most Hololivers have a loading screen, which is just the default image before they turn the camera on and switch over to that channel.
Mm.
And so the very first thing when Guar appears on screen, she's just standing there, and then she just says, ah, and then they cut back to the loading screen, and that immediately became a meme. So just the letter A by itself is sort of heavily associated with Guar now.
Lowercase, no punctuation, followed by the shark emoji.
I see. No, I don't see.
It's a.
But the most important thing about all this is Seraphis has aptly pointed out in our Discord channel in the past is the sheer amount of salt spewing out from all the ethos over the massive popularity of HoloLive EN. Because I mean, the thing is that HoloLive was always very popular in the West before, but because there were no English speaking. Well, there were English speakers, but English speaking was not one of the things, not one of their primary attributes.
But it was a novelty from like Coco and Hachima.
Most of the ethos were broadly unaware of HoloLive until now, and they realized that, you know, they completely sell out their dignity and purity on camera in order for a bit of loose change, and all Guar has to do is make a few cute noises and she gets 100 times as much money. And the ethos are incredibly salty about all of this.
Good.
It's so funny. All girls that stream hate HoloLive right now.
And it's delicious.
It is. That sounds wonderful.
Did you see what's she going? Pokimane has tried to become a VTuber.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
good
was
grief.
hilarious. The farms thread was mining the salt on that for pages.
I'm pretty sure that she's lambasted VTubers in the past.
Yeah, she has.
Didn't she insult everyone not too long ago?
Well, I mean, she is Queen Grifter. Like, she's one of the top grifters in that entire community. Like, say what you like about her, she's pretty darn good at her marketing, and she has absolutely no shame.
Right.
Yeah. She also is notorious for accusing people of grifting because projection's a thing.
Right.
So Pokimane is but yeah, she came out with a VTuber avatar to try and hype or get some money off the trend. And people are laughing at her for it because she mocked VTubers before this.
Yeah. I mean, I remember the YouTuber Gundam had he adopted a VTuber avatar ages ago because he was basically inspired by the Project Melody thing, and so he's made it into sort of a joke, right? His VTuber avatar is basically Scout from TF2 with a Gundam head, so it's like supremely low effort, intentionally so.
Right.
And occasionally, and it allows him to do gimmicks like he'll switch his avatar to an anime girl whenever he wants to imitate, trying to get simps and that sort of thing. At any rate, he got lambasted by several ethos, Pokimane in particular among them, she has targeted him many times in the past because he's made a cottage industry out of mocking ethos. But she ragged on him about being a low effort YouTuber who's just trying to jump on the VTuber trend.
Oh boy.
So I found that particularly delicious when she came out with one.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Tentacle Girl's hair just weirds me out.
don't know what it is. Like, what is it? Is it hair? Because it
It-
doesn't
it's-
seem to behave like hair.
It's squishy.
Why
It's
is it squishy?
weird because she has head tentacles.
But why?
She just does. It looks weird in their group debut stream.
She's one of their primary artists as well, isn't she?
Yeah, I think so. I think she draw good. I think
Yeah,
Sui Sui is still better though.
She didn't do the character designs, but she does do a lot of art. Like I think she did like album art for Kelly, and she did some drawings of them as a group and that sort of thing.
Yeah. For those that don't know, I'll try to find a group picture of all of them and dump it in the live show chat for reference, if I can find it. Here we go. I will save it and upload it directly so that we have it archived on our server instead of a link to a DuckDuckGo thing. Oops, that's the wrong folder. That's the right one.
Professionalism.
There you go. Yep, there we go. So yeah, you can see what we mean by that one on the far left looking like Abby from FGO. And also her hair is squishy.
But why though?
I feel bad for Fern. He just doesn't have an in on this.
But why though?
The one we like is the one on the far right.
Little shark girl.
Yes. The one that is the worst at her job is the one next to her.
I see.
Yeah.
This is like
No,
just staring
no,
into an alien ecology. Completely just bizarre.
Well, it's literally an alien ecology at this point.
Yes, it is.
Guar has a little pet named Bloop. That's the shark in the bubble.
Okay.
So yeah. I think I can get to a point where I would listen to Guar casually in the background. She would have to get a little more confident than she is right now before I do it, but I could turn on a live stream in like maybe a month and have it on.
I watched her entire totally accurate battle simulator stream. Well, more I put it in the background while farming on FGO.
Oh dear.
But she seems all right so long as she's more focused on the game than on the fact that she's an entertainer.
That's right. What are you gonna do, bruh? That's a quote from that stream.
Also, totally accurate battle simulator is kind of an amusing game.
It's very strange. Fun, but strange.
I've skipped around in that video a lot because there are clips in it where she is absolutely adorable.
Oh dear. You're not about to go full simp on us, I hope.
I'm never.
Sorry,
I don't think
shrimp,
I will.
shrimp.
I'm never going to shrimp out for any VTuber or any streamer. I would never. I don't have enough disposable income when I'm saving for a house.
Don't do any of the shrimps.
Oh,
They don't have enough disposable income either. That's sort of the problem with this whole genre, really.
The thing is, they haven't been disillusioned with women yet. They've never been able to get one. I've been through and played that game and got the t-shirt. So I have no need to pursue them.
right.
So
I think though, generally speaking, the community of fans of VTubers is healthier than the community of fans of your usual ethos, simply because 99.99% of VTuber fans acknowledge that it's a character.
Yeah.
And they're
They
also
aren't under the impression that that person is real.
Yeah. And they're there not because the person has big honkers unless their name is Coco. But, you know, they're there because they're cute and adorable and do funny things with the character. Or the one male VTuber that's still around and the making waves in the HoloLive male version, Hollow Stars or whatever. He's still getting some memes, but there's only one of them.
Well, these sorts of things are pretty much driven by men. They're not really. It's not really a woman thing.
No,
Any woman with that amount of time to spend in front of a computer is typically trying to set up their own stream.
yeah. So there's one guy from Hollow Stars that's managed to stick around, and the last meme I saw of him was he got somebody message him, "Are you winning, son?" He goes, "Yes, I am winning, son. I am everyone's winning son." Oh man. So,
Must be a lonely life, being the sole male VTuber in that particular project.
and not allowed to cross over with HoloLive at all. Stuck
Well,
in his.
HoloLive is run like an idol agency, so there aren't allowed to be any males.
Yeah, they had one crossover with the dragon guy. I think he's still around, but he's not memed as much. And the and Fubuki. So yeah, that's how things are going right now with entertainment as far as watching stuff goes. I've literally just been watching clips of YouTubers. I'm a little late to this party, but they're fun.
You're unhealthy, man. And I say that as somebody who was familiar with this whole scene long before you were.
Yeah.
You're in too deep, man.
You got here like a year before I did. But
it was no, it wasn't that. It wasn't quite that long ago. It was a little bit before Christmas, I think, that I first started looking at it. And it was just out of curiosity because of the crossovers with Azure Lane.
it was I'm Scatman and all downhill from there.
Yeah.
That seems to be a common story.
Yeah.
So yes, that's all I did. Not a whole lot this week. I had to stretch that one out. So yeah, I think that's our weeks. Go to a break.
Yep, let us do that.
Yes, the tea is flowing through me quite literally at this point.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Here's some music. We'll be back. And we're back.
Yes.
If you would like to shrimp for us, write out a check in full and mail it to my P.O. box. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
Please don't do that.
I will not know what to do if you send me a check. I'll put it through the shredder.
People send checks.
Apparently, those still exist.
My business has to use paper checks because my boss is a dinosaur.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever owned a checkbook.
What decade are you in?
1990 at the latest.
Right.
What decade is your adding machine from?
No, it has 1960 on the copyright at the bottom of it. So, quite old.
Yeah, that's reassuring. I mean, no, okay, numbers and math hasn't changed since then, but still.
Oh, an adding machine.
Adding machine.
Not a calculator, an adding machine.
Adding machine.
But my boss uses it as a calculator. I keep the thing plugged into the room next to mine now, and only use it to print receipts.
Good gravy.
You can't just email them?
Like everyone else?
Not when I gotta send a paper response, because my boss is a dinosaur.
I actually kind of wonder how much of this is just your boss and how much of it is just American culture.
It's most of the antique garbage is my boss.
Right. Because it seems like checks are still a major thing over there.
No.
Okay, good. That's a relief.
It's because too much of your experience of the US has been lensed through Aristeel.
That's probably it.
You're also getting
crazy retail stories.
Yeah, and you're also getting the southern lens when you see it from me. So that also puts another filter on top of the Aristeel lens.
Yes.
So not exactly an accurate picture of the US in its entirety.
Not impartial.
Somebody spilled something on the calculator in the lab.
Yeah.
Now when I push the keys down, they don't come back up. I don't know what to do about it.
It's a lab spill as well. So it's not just, it could be food or it could be drink. It could be
It's probably
literally
alive.
anything.
It's probably alive.
Yes, and it will be cranky if you disturb it.
It's
I doused it in ethanol the other day, but I don't think it's fixed anything.
No, now it's just evolving.
The calculator's going to start doing math for you.
Well, that would save me some time.
Yeah,
it's never said. Yeah, it's not going to do it right. That calculator ain't been to school for math.
You don't seem to understand just how much play there is in numbers when you're dealing with microbiology. Like, if you can get within 50% of the answer, you're doing pretty damn well.
Yeah. Seems like the deeper you go down science, it's like 1 equals 1. Sometimes.
No, one always.
It depends on which discipline. Like, 1 equals 1 in most branches of mathematics, except branches which are explicitly based on things not doing what they're supposed to.
Yes.
Things you add a little bit of error when you move from mathematics to physics, and then you gain a little bit of error when you move from physics to chemistry. You gain a little bit of error when you move from chemistry to biology, or biochemistry first and then biology after that, and then it just keeps carrying along until you get to something like sociology, where the error is larger than the numbers that you are dealing with.
Oh dear. So yeah, that's a warren of madness I don't really want to dive down. Alright, we should probably look at some... Actually, hang on, before we look at news, I just want to check something else.
You're checking something else.
That we're still streaming?
Oh, well, yeah, I've already checked that. We're okay. No, we don't have an email. Okay, news.
Okay, yeah. So, news. This was actually a big week for news and video games.
Stuff happened.
Yes, indeed.
So I gotta figure out where we started our week.
Yeah, it's a bit all over the place. It's a bit of a mess.
What do we want to jump in with? We got the games that we all want to talk about highlighted from the announcements.
All right, how about we end the show on a happy note? So let's talk about something bad first.
Do you have something in mind?
Not really. Is there something bad this week?
It's all either neutral or good.
Yeah. Like, normally there's always something to complain ourselves inside out about.
Well, I mean, I think that there are a couple of topics that I think bear some discussion on in sort of dry industry terms.
All right.
The most remote one from the fun stuff, I think, is the Nvidia acquisition. So I think that this is important, and it might not be apparent to some people why it's important, but Nvidia has acquired ARM, which this is like, I think, the single biggest deal in microchips in like forever. Like the acquisitions are valued at like 40 billion or something.
Yeah, 40 billion.
Yeah. Now this is a really, really big deal because it's if you have a mobile device that has ARM chips in it, period end. Like they are the last word in mobile computing. Period. It's just, that's the way it is. And the reason for this, broadly speaking, is that they are extremely specialized in hyper energy efficient chips.
Yep.
So basically this is Nvidia rounding up a field in which they are not that strong. Like, you know, they've poked at mobile computing before and not really been that successful. They have the Tegra series, I think. Yes,
Was that NVIDIA?
I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Nvidia.
I know. I'm pretty sure those two were entangled. I don't know if it was Nvidia's specifically, but
But they have nothing relevant on the market right now.
yes, it was developed by Nvidia for use in mobile devices. But yeah, so that's it's not really a thing anymore. But having access to ARM's sort of technology is going to give them a huge hand up, but not just in mobile tech. Now there are two main things which will grow out of this. Number one is that while ARM's speciality in their architecture, because their architecture is radically different to, you know, traditional x86 architecture, radically different. Because it's so focused on power consumption rather than, you know, the raw computational horsepower, which is what x86 is focused on. But the thing with power demands is that at some point you're looking at scalability, because you may be bringing up the rear in terms of, you know, your raw grunt, but if you're looking at like massive massive computers where you've got, like, you know, where the cloud is taking place, for instance, and that type of thing, where you've got, you know, huge servers and hugely powerful computers. At some point, as the power demand gets higher and higher, it starts to become a little bit impractical to use traditional architecture for it, even though it's more powerful. Whereas you still got room in terms of raw power to continue to scale up, power efficient processors. So this sort of gives you, as a manufacturer, you're going to start seeing a gap open up in like the data center market, which is going to be increasingly important as more and more things move toward the cloud. Particularly when you've got systems like Nvidia tried to launch a thing before running into a whole bunch of legal trouble, which is basically selling or renting out the virtual machines on a data center to allow you to play all your Steam games, except that they were going to be streamed to you.
Oh, what was that called now? I
I
know what
don't
you're talking
remember what
about.
it's called. But yeah, that idea is incredible in terms of the latitude that it has to grow if you can, you know, scale it up. They ran into problems purely because of licensing and conflicts of interest, in the sense that their interest conflicted with the people who were actually having their game played. Although there's a whole bunch of legal confusion around that. In my opinion, there should be if there isn't, because all they're doing is renting a computer, and since when was renting a computer illegal? Because somebody's still paid for all that software. They aren't hosting any of the software. They're just renting out a virtual machine. But that aside, basically, this is going to give them a whole lot of room in that data center market where Nvidia were just not able to compete before, and ARM until now hasn't really had a means to compete. But So this is a very strong sort of power move in the industry for Nvidia to expand their interests into markets where they couldn't previously work. But the other thing is, ARM's designs are used by everybody, including Nvidia's competitors. So even though Nvidia has pledged to sort of continue all of that licensing of ARM's chip designs, they're now in this sort of weird position where they are ultimately in control of the supply of chips to people like Apple and Google and Huawei and Amazon and all these people.
Mm-hmm.
So there are going to be countries where this is going to get put under the microscope, something vicious. And I don't know what's actually going to happen to Nvidia out of this. They spend a lot of money to get this deal off the ground, but there's a non-negligible chance that they're going to run up against antitrust law in various countries.
Yeah, it would depend on how hard. I think Apple would be the one that takes them up and takes them to battle in the U.S.
Well, they're doing that with everybody at the moment.
Yeah, they got their hands tied at the moment, but they may once they get a few of their better lawyers freed up, they might try and go after this. If the deal is not kept amicable to the people on the receiving end.
While Apple is certainly litigious, I don't think that it's necessarily wise for walled garden Apple to be the people raising an antitrust dispute.
Yeah, that could be bad.
And the same applies to Google, but Amazon might. Huawei, they should probably shut up and go back to China because they're already under sanctions. Like their technology is going to fall behind if Donald Trump gets re-elected and he maintains and continues to tighten sanctions on US technology to China, Huawei is going to start to fall way behind the technology curve. And because Nvidia's got a lot of stake in the US, they're not going to want to try and transgress that. So those licenses may expire as well. And that's going to basically put Huawei in the ground technologically. The only way they'll be able to acquire new technology is through outright corporate espionage, which they're already engaged in, but that will become their main venue for acquiring technology at that point. So I think the only one really left amongst the big dogs is probably Amazon, and they may or may not decide to move into that arena if they feel like Nvidia's doing things that they should not be doing under antitrust law. Nvidia's CEO said they have no plan on doing that sort of thing, but he might not be the one calling the shots by the time it actually happens. It's hard to say. But yeah, this is more interesting than it sounds when you describe it, and that's why there's so much money tied up into this. But it could end up being a scenario where like the next big smartphone developer is Nvidia, of all people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be interesting to see what happens when you look at what Nvidia can do with ARM under their control and how they can get their creative teams to talk to each other. They might be able to produce some really cool stuff. But it's also really scary having them owning the means of supply to literally everybody.
Yeah,
so
there's already basically there are two companies worth a mention in this field, and that is Intel with their Snapdragon chips and ARM with their own set of chips. Like that's it. There's ARM and Intel, two people. So it was already we're looking at sort of a duopoly paralleling the sort of Intel AMD one in the mobile market, but the other amongst the other competitors in that market, the lesser competitors, was Nvidia. They were because they had the Tegra chips on the market, which are still used in some things. But yeah, it's what does the Switch use? I'm so curious now.
I don't. It's Tegra. Hang on.
It is a mobile. It is a mobile device, and it's one of the most widely used ones. Yeah, it is based on the Tegra. It is based on the Tegra chip.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would put Nintendo under Nvidia's sway as well, to a certain extent.
The ARM4 chip.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that every mobile device, regardless of which major chipset it uses, typically also uses ARM chips.
Yep.
But yeah, so there's a lot tied to this particular deal, and that's what makes this important. It's not because of anything that has happened within view of the industry as it stands, but because of what it implies for the future. And it's a powerful alliance that could make a lot of money for the people involved, but it could also end up, running aground on antitrust law depending on how they manage things. I mean, even if they make the pledge that they're going to continue to supply the same licensing to the client companies that they always have, the courts might not see it that way. They might see it as more like, well, technically speaking, yes, you haven't changed any of the circumstances, but that your competitors are now beholden to you personally. So, yeah, it's sort of hard to see where that will go. But that's a thing that happened, and in pure dollar terms, it's the biggest move in the industry this week past and for a long time.
Yeah.
So that was that topic. The other topic, which is it got a sort of a negative spin to it in certain ways, is the PS5 announcements and launch and pre-orders and complete implosion and all of the other terrible stuff which has been tied into it.
This is completely what I expected from the PS5 launch, so it's been very neutral for me.
I wasn't surprised by any of it, but none of it is a good precedent in my opinion. And one of the major reasons for that is that you're moving very sharply in the direction of making playing video too expensive a prospect for normal people.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the way the adjusted prices are scaling into other markets. Like, we don't end up in a situation where we're all moving, everywhere except for Japan and the US is moving in the direction of Brazil. But like a PS4 in Brazil, I've heard costs like $1,800 American or something.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
Yes, it is a lot of money. But yeah, so basically, Sony has made their announcements of the pricing on the PS5, their allegedly next gen console, and I say allegedly because remember when you could tell the difference between one generation and the next generation by looking at the games?
I mean, it took
not so much.
It took halfway into the PS4 before I could really say, yeah, that's a step up from PS3.
Yeah, and now that's even more exacerbated this coming generation. But at any rate, so as we know, much like Microsoft, Sony is launching two SKUs. The first one is a disk drive one, and the second is a disk drive free one. So they're both the same product in terms of their raw power. The only difference is the optical drive. So the optical drive one is $500. And the not optical drive one, which looks less like it's got a tumor, is $400. And so this is the same sort of layout, except a bit different to Microsoft, where they've got an expensive one and they've got a cheap one. But well, I say cheap in a relative sense.
Yes.
But of course, there's a huge power gap between the two Xbox Ones, and I was pondering this. I think that it might actually even impact Microsoft unfavorably, that the PS5 one, while it's $100 more, there's no power gap. But
yeah, all you're really losing is the disk drive.
But for the Microsoft one, there's a $200 gap. But
yes,
I've heard that on paper, the ritziest, most deluxe version of the Xbone is more powerful than the Series S.
Woof.
I don't know how true that is, but I'm pretty sure that you're going to end up in a situation where, and I've heard this described recently, and I didn't know what it was called before, because to me it was just common sense. But it's like the poor man's shoes problem is going to grow out of this. So, and it's going to be especially exacerbated in the case of Microsoft, but it does occur in the case of PS5 as well. So in the case of Microsoft, what you've got is a underpowered system, which is going to play allegedly next-gen games at poor performance in current-gen quality, except has also got a 512 gigabyte hard drive that you're going to be installing modern games on. Well, I say hard drive, it's a solid state drive.
Yeah.
It's a 512 gigabyte solid state drive that you're going to be installing modern games on. You know, they're like 175 gigs each nowadays, or at least it seems like that. You've got no optical drive. All of that stuff, if you want to play it, you've got to pull it down from the server and install it, and then keep that clogging up your disk space. And if you want to buy the expansion drive, like it's like a terabyte expansion drive or something like that, you have to shell out a couple $100 for it. So if all you want is the cheaper system with a decent amount of hard drive space, you're paying as much as you would pay for the Series X to begin with. Except you're not getting any of the power with that.
Or the disk drive.
Yeah. The other thing is the disk drive, and this applies to both the Sony offering and the Microsoft offering, is that you are obliged now to use only the digital store. The digital store, which has no long-term price reductions. Prices don't have to drop. You have to pay. You have to come to them hat in hand and buy from their store at the price that they want to offer. If you've got no disk drive, you can't wait for a sale at a retailer. You can't wade through the bargain bins. You can't buy secondhand. None of that stuff is possible for you anymore at that point.
Yeah, and this is what we've been warning people about for years.
Yeah. You have to pay the price that they are offering for at their store. And this brings us to the compounding problem with the PS5, is that they are setting their new standard price point at $70, which is being translated in an interesting way to other currencies, from what I've heard.
Yeah, let me.
In the case of Australia, I've heard that their standard price on their store is pitched at 120 Australian dollars.
All right, let me have a look at ye olde EB games, because
I'm not. I'm talking about their store, because we're talking about a system where you can't go to EB Games.
Yeah. Oh, for the games. Yeah. For the console itself, though. Yeah, we're looking at $750 for the full console and about 100 or 95. Let's just call it 100 for a launch title game. That's a disc.
That's not too far off with the conversion if you're getting 100. If it was 120, you guys would be way jacked for the conversion.
Oh, you went for Call of Duty.
That's what I'm saying, is that you can't go to EB. You have to go to their store, the one where they get all of the markup. They aren't passing a single cent of savings along to the consumer. You go to their store, and their standard price point for your AAA title is going to be 120 Australian dollars, from what I heard. I haven't got any good way of confirming that, because of course it hasn't happened yet.
Yes,
but yeah, that's what we're looking at. So we're in the situation where you could opt for the cheaper console. In either case, you could opt for the cheaper console. But by the time you build your way up to the premium experience, like that you want, the experience that you want, you're not going to have spent the same amount of money. You're going to have spent more. So in both cases, you're going to have to lean very heavily on things like PS Plus and whatever the Microsoft equivalent is called. I can't remember. I can never remember. It's got a really banal name.
Gold or something.
PS Now or something, isn't it?
No. Microsoft doesn't have PS. No, you've got it. What's it called?
I don't know. It's so damn generic. Xbox Game Pass.
Game Pass, right? That's the one. So you're going to have to lean very heavily on Game Pass, which means that you get what they are willing to give you in this scenario. Otherwise, you're going to have to pay through the nose for it. And of course, by the time, like from what I've heard of people who like actually care about the Xbone, because I'm not one of them. I haven't played anything on an Xbone. I've never even touched one. I don't think I've ever even seen one in the flesh. The Xbone, apparently, if you have like a launch SKU and you compare it with the current premium SKU, the launch experience is really cruddy. And these two things are allegedly on the same tier, right? More or lessly. If you're releasing them with a big separation in power, the way they're doing with this next generation, where you've got the Series S and the Series X, by the time you're halfway into a console generation, do you think you're really going to be able to play anything on a Series S? No. Unless your standards are low, or you never intend to play anything but indie games, you're not going to be able to use that system in a practical sense. You're going to have to end up buying a more powerful system anyway later in the console cycle if you want to play the latest games. because you know the only way that you think that it's a good idea to ship the Halo Infinite that we saw is if you know that it has to run on a Series S. And that's what they're doing. They're bifurcating their market, and they're going to be forcing their developers to conform to that over the course of time. So you don't really have a generational leap here in a lot of ways, because you're obliging everything to run on the older hardware as well. So you are instantiating on a hardware level the philosophy that has been carried out for the past few generations, where you launch the game on the previous console and the new console simultaneously, which is something that the PlayStation 5 is going to be doing for a lot of their titles. There are some exceptions to this, but a lot of their titles, they're going to be, dual platform release, a PS4 release, PS5 release in conjunction with each other. Whenever you do that, you're putting constraints on the development process. Which, I mean, it's to a certain extent, it's to be expected early in a console life cycle, because, they just haven't had the technology available for that long to see how it's going to play out. But, they are placing a much heavier burden, I think, on the developers for the Microsoft console, because, they could just develop for the PC instead. It will still go through Game Pass, except, the PC gamers will be able to play it and they'll have more room to work with. You've completely eroded the flexibility of being able to develop on a platform with fixed parameters the way that they were once upon a time. The advantage of console development was that you knew the specs of the device that everyone had in their house.
Yep.
But now you've got two different sets of specs at least. One for the Series S and one for the Series X, and the Series S is gutless, and you're going to have to optimize for that.
Yay!
Dump a whole bunch of development time into that process. And those people, I don't think they're going to be happy in the long term. I mean, sure, they can get their console for $300, and that's a pretty good launch price for a new console, if it was a new console. But as far as I can tell, it's roughly the same sort of architectural layout for technology that is pretty much gutless by comparison. It's current gen level of power on next gen architecture, which is not really that helpful. So I think that amongst people that have a sort of a good feel for what you're being sold, I think a lot of people will be turned off the Microsoft product. What the PlayStation equivalent and their cheaper model does is enslave you to their store, which, given the prices that Sony charges in their store, is not great. They're going to have their backwards compatibility in place. It's less comprehensive than what Game Pass would offer, but you still get all your PS4 games that you had. They are available to you straight away. But, other than that, you're going to be relying on, well, what's PS Plus going to be giving me to play this month type of approach.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if you are sufficiently skint that you want to pay for the cheaper console, you're not going to be in a position where you want to pay the most expensive price for every game that comes out, which is what you'll be doing if you buy that console.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really see the logic of these cheaper consoles from the point of view of a purchaser. Like, the only person who buys the cheaper console is the person for which the store price is that money is no object. And that person might as well buy the more expensive one to begin with. And then if you compare the two platforms from the two different companies side by side, well, you could buy a Series S, or you could stretch that extra $100 and get the disc driveless PS5 if you're committed to the optical driveless thing. And if you stretch that extra $100, then you actually get current gen technology.
Like, unless you are supremely fat and break out in hives if you touch a used game that you order off the internet.
I kind of do.
I do not see why you would lock yourself down to these store prices to begin with. So these whole digital only versions just don't click with me at all. I don't see why anybody would buy them.
I can see exactly one reason to buy it, and that's that the disc driveless PS5 is way less ugly.
Yeah. And it's cheaper, I guess.
If you're worried about the initial cost, pay dollary dues you got to shell out, but over time, the thing's going to cost you more money.
It will, actually, yeah.
And this is what they're calling the poor man's shoes problem, basically being that if you buy cheap shoes, you'll have to spend more in the long run because they'll wear out quicker.
Yes.
Is what I understand the principle is, and that applies here. Like, and it's even more egregious in the case of the Series S because it's a weaker piece of kit with a very tiny hard drive. So, yeah, and you're not getting anything out of it. Like as far as the technology goes, the optimal case for the seller for Sony and for Microsoft is that everybody buys the driveless version so they can shackle you to their hell engine that is their store.
Yeah.
And the optimal case for the purchaser, in my opinion, is, you know, just save up for the more powerful one, for the more luxurious one if you don't have the money to buy it right away. There's nothing good on launch ever anyway.
No.
Just don't. There's going to be massive shortages anyway from what things sound like. Both Microsoft and Sony have run into supply chain problems because it's just hard to get enough chips to put these things together. I think they're only going to be able to ship like 11 or 12 million PS5s in the first batch anyway. They've fallen short of what they were hoping to deliver, and I think both companies are wearing the cost of expedited shipping as well to get them distributed around the world. Things are not going well as far as the deployment of these two devices go.
If you can just cool your beans on buying it at launch and you don't need to be in that launch crowd and you're worried about price, you'll be able to buy the cost of the main big optical drive version of whatever system you pick, plus a game for the original price you would have bought it for at launch if you just wait 10 months.
I don't see any reason to rush into this next generation. And one of the reasons for that is that, as far as I can tell, Microsoft isn't offering any games with the next generation.
I mean, they had one. It's in my trash can right now about 12 times. But
like they have no exclusives. And while generally speaking, I feel like exclusives are fundamentally kind of anti-consumer, there's ultimately still no reason to buy that system. Like, if you can use Game Pass on your PC and you have a gaming PC, I don't understand why you want an Xbox. Like, what good is that device for you?
And even then, Microsoft had this trend of moving their console exclusives to PC eventually.
Yeah,
even their
plan
darling Halo is coming to PC.
Their plan going forward is to just not have any console exclusives. They don't care to. Like, Halo isn't going to be only on the Xbox. It's going to be on Xbox and PC via their store.
And if you're very frugal and look for sales and build it yourself piece by piece, you can feasibly build a PC that's way more powerful than the Xbox for the price of a Xbox, and it'll be able to do more.
So as far as the PS5 goes, at least they are trying to show off some titles. Like, a lot of them are going to be dual platform launches. Like, for instance, that's following the pattern that we've seen in previous generations, where you launch it on two systems. Previously, we had things they launched on the PS3 and the PS4, for instance,
for about a year-ish, yeah.
And they're planning on doing that again. But at least there's a couple, I think, that they've shown off, like Demon's Souls. I think the remaster is going. Well, it's not even remaster; it's a complete rebuild.
Yeah, that game's really jank.
That game's going to be PS5 only, and I got to say, it looks.
It looks pretty. Yeah, I can't wait to play it when I finally do get a PS5.
It plays as good as it looks, because the previous Demon's Souls apparently did not play all that well.
No, I went back to play it on PS3, and holy crap, that game is some next level jank.
Oh yeah, it was some serious.
It was ultimately just an experiment. It wasn't really a game. I mean, there's a game in there, but you've got to coax it out. But yeah, I've always thought that. Well, I've always felt that it was a bit of a turn off to me that most of the Souls games I thought looked like garbage. Like, everything was made of stone, but you could hardly tell because the graphics were so mediocre.
It took them till Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3 to figure out a style for the series that made any sense and looked decent. The first two Dark Souls games look awful. I
felt Bloodborne looked good. It wasn't incredible, but it looked good. It looked good enough. But this remake of Demon's Souls looks really, really nice. So
yeah, and they had a proper gameplay demo, which shows they have confidence in what they put together. and it looked really pretty. The
Yeah.
animations were really smooth and everything.
The upshot of all this is at least they have something to show. They have something that's going to make people want it. And there's also the Ratchet and Clank. I've never been part of that community, but apparently there are a lot of people who are really keen on Ratchet and Clank. So
it's in that bundle with like Sly Cooper from the PlayStation days, the PS2 days. These people seem to be fans of all the games in that animal type person cluster.
People who liked Jack and Dexter and
Sly Cooper and Ratchet and Clank. Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe they'll come out with another new Spyro game or something. They were coming out with a new numbered Crash, weren't they?
Yeah, Crash 4 is coming out soon.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to revive some of these old franchises. But yeah, it's they've got something to show for themselves to show that there is actually an increment taking place here, where in a lot of ways there really isn't for Microsoft. Like I don't see an increment there. And their approach doesn't seem to be one that endorses an increment either. They seem to be more focused on, oh, well, I mean, we will move up to that sort of technology level over time. So what do you get when you shell out your money to begin with then? Like, what are you getting out of it? I don't see it.
Don't ask me. But yeah.
Right. That's my bit. You guys can talk about all the games that you thought were just swell.
Okay, well, you got to spurge about Fate for whenever Fate happens. I don't get oftentimes to spurge about my favorite series. So we'll do that one next.
Hey, we did a 5-hour show that time.
Yeah, that was being angry at the bad killed the franchise.
We've never gotten a whole 5-hour show for me to talk about Fate before.
It probably eclipsed it in time we've spent talking about FGO just on the main show.
Yeah, probably.
Probably well eclipsed it several times over. So, as always, and is now a tradition with the proper mainline Devil May Cry games, we have a special edition featuring Virgil from the special edition series. Because this poor guy can't get in the base game to save his life.
So that's going to be the new sticker, is that you put the sticker on the thing. It says featuring Virgil from Devil May Cry Special Edition.
Featuring Virgil from the special edition series. Or something like that. But yeah, they're doing the usual special edition treatment, and it looks really good. They're giving it turbo mode, faster loading times. They're putting in the new Horde mode that started coming out in Devil May Cry 4 when it came to PC, so they can sextuple the number of enemies with the PS5. And they'll just cram enemies all over the screen and set it to Son of Sparta difficulty and say good luck. And you get to play a Muso game in Devil May Cry. And then they have Virgil as a proper playable character, because he's always a proper playable character in special editions, because it's a special edition. Has to, at this point. And he looks really good. He looks like a lot of fun. Looks like all his moves are there. He gets his own special Sin Devil Trigger mode like Dante got. And I'm really, really hyped. And he has a cool theme song that had a really bad cover release the other day, and we're getting the official version next week. So that'll hopefully be much better.
But is it as memorable?
Bang, 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 Devil Trigger pull.
No.
Ruin it.
It's not as memorable as Bang, 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 pull my Devil Trigger, but it's still pretty good music for a Devil May Cry game. And it fits Virgil very well and is in line with his other themes. So that's fun. Virgil will not be out, unfortunately, right away. He'll be free DLC later, I think, or paid DLC, one of the two. I think he's free, but he might be paid.
Why take so long? I mean, he's been in development since the start of the project.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the project got its entire development put in stasis until it got revived for the special edition. So he had a working pseudo-playable model in the game that you could kind of sort of use, but if you hack the PC version, but it wasn't anywhere close to done. Some fans finished it out and made something kind of sort of playable, but we're getting the official version you can take in Bloody Tower with your friends and stuff, and that'll be fun.
Neat.
Or Bloody Palace. So I'm very excited for that to come on PS5. That will be a system seller for me.
Everything is with Virgil.
Oh, we're going for round 3. We're gonna get the platy again, the third time. Here we go.
Oh boy.
I platted that game on PC and PS4. I'll do it again. Get me that goofy meme.
All right. So a bunch of other stuff was announced. Nintendo did a whole thing. Most of the stuff they announced looked fairly blah, but they did announce 2 new Monster Hunter games.
Mm-hmm.
So first and foremost, we've got Monster Hunter Stories, which is the least interesting one to talk about. Or Stories 2, I should say. It has no Navaroo in it. It's immediately embedded in the previous one.
You seem mad at Navarro.
Nobody likes Navaroo.
Well, yeah, that's sort of the point, isn't it?
Yes, he's incredibly annoying. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what the story is for it. It's like all the Rathalos are dying out now, and you need to figure out why.
Yeah.
That seems to be about the depth of the story I've been able to just get out of it so far. No gameplay, of course, because of course there isn't. So yeah, we'll see what happens on that. The first game, honestly, it's okay, but the story is kind of really bad and all over the place. You're better off watching the anime to get the actual plot.
The anime just sort of stops dead at some point, though.
It kind of just stops, yeah. But at least the plot that it presents is coherent and makes sense. Like your rival character in the anime, he's got very good reasons to going off and turning edgy. Whereas in the game, it's like, oh, I'm just edgy now.
I see.
That's it. That's pretty much the entirety of his character development.
He turns into Gary.
Essentially, yeah. Except he doesn't have that lovable dickish streak through him that people seem to really enjoy on Gary. I don't know why. It just makes Gary more punchable.
I think that's the part they enjoy.
Maybe they just love to hate Gary. So yeah. The other game is Monster Hunter, and I've already forgotten the name. That's great.
Is this the one with the platypus?
It is. It has a platypus in it.
Yeah, it's like this platypus turtle thing was their featured monster for most of the trailer.
Yeah, that uses the Congolus mesh.
Like, that's the only thing I could take away from this Monster Hunter was there was a giant platypus that was trying to eat another monster.
They have another chunky boy, though.
They got Azarus back. So everyone's big blue bear. He comes and gives you a hug. I like Azarus.
Yep.
They've got a chunky boy to keep Great Jagras and Zemtrius.
He does get chunky.
Company. And they've got a bird.
A burb. So it looks like this is your obligatory mid-generation side game on the Switch.
This looks like a side game. I resent that it's on the Switch because it looks so great on the current gen platforms like the PC and the PS4. Like that version of the game engine is just so great at depicting what it does, and I just feel like we're almost getting sold a bit short. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's a Monster Hunter game, but I'll wait for the remaster on PS5 and I'll play that one.
Yeah,
I know they don't really do that, but
you look at it and it looks like the World Engine, but it looks like the World Engine that's just been toned right down. So it still looks nice.
It's because
could you imagine Switch loading screens?
Oh yeah,
with the world.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't stomach it. Like the Switch is such a limited platform in so many ways. Like most modern tablets are more powerful than the Switch. I just wish they would stop shackling people to that level of technology. If they were charging a commensurately small price for it, then it would make more sense to me. But they aren't. They're still charging a standard handheld console price for the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
But they're delivering a subpar tablet experience in a lot of ways. The fact that they've managed to cultivate a really strong stable of titles is the only thing keeping that system alive.
Yeah, it's the only portable.
That's admirable. That's admirable in its way, but they could be offering more than they are.
They could be. But anyway, as far as the gameplay, we got to see a whole bunch of new monsters and a few returning favorites. For the mechanics, it looks like they've taken the mount mechanic they introduced in the world expansion and just made it a new companion character. So now you have your Palamute.
Permadoggo.
You get Doggo. Everyone, you get your big blue Doggo.
Which
yeah.
is what they'll be able to sell a gajillion skins for.
Oh yeah, well they've already announced the amiibo for it. Because it's good for you.
Amiibo.
You want your Doggo amiibo?
Just imagine the various colors and armors types of amiibo they could sell, and if you buy them, you can scan them into the game, so that you have to buy the amiibo and sell the upmark and buy the upmark price of the physical good. Oh, it's some print money.
Print money.
Amiibo is an act of evil.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's the least evil of those NFC game ideas, because at least you can use a lot of them in multiple games, but oh, boy.
No, it's just pretty dang evil.
Yeah, I'm trying to give it a silver lining. It's still pretty evil.
No, they're selling you a $2 skin for $25. It's pretty evil.
But you're getting a physical good, Aristeel.
Admittedly, they're a high quality figurine, but yeah.
I have great respect for the marketing guy that was sitting at his desk one day, and a lightning bolt struck his head, and he went to his boss and went, "I got a great idea."
It wasn't a lightning bolt. Someone threw a Skylander at him.
Yeah, they did just knock off Skylanders.
It was probably the same guy.
Probably the same guy. So, yeah, that exists. So yeah, there's amiibos. Who cares? They've also reworked the hook again, so it looks like you've got a lot more free roaming movement this time as well.
I really don't want that to become like the center of gameplay.
Yeah.
Like, because like, I know that I've got a skewed perspective because I'm a greatsword main who adores the greatsword, who loves that pace of play above all the others that are available, and the whole constant pretending to be Spider-Man is like utterly antithetical to the way that I play Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
So I really don't want it to become the total center of gameplay.
Yeah, I'd rather not, admittedly. There was
I play the opposite end of that, so I'm not too hurt by it.
Yeah. I mean, I play Hunting Horn main these days, so I honk and I bonk, and that's it.
Yeah, whenever you're playing with us, I'm not sure what you're doing. I just
He's
assume
rocking
you're
out, okay?
I'm rocking out in the corner with my my terrible Nokia phone.
Vol is attempting to hit the boss with a big chonky attack. I'm constantly hitting it with my dual blades, and you're over there playing your horn.
Share the dudes.
Like,
Hey,
I guess he's doing something.
you're not dying.
I guess.
With the, yeah, I've got the. I tend to main with the Basil Gaius horn, which is essentially the nobody dies horn. So yeah, it looks like more Monster Hunter on the Switch.
Yeah, it feels like a missed opportunity. I'm just hoping and praying that they've got another development team who's working on a next gen one.
Do a HD remaster or a HD version for the other consoles.
Yeah, I don't know that they've ever done that before. Like just re-released it on another console after redoing it in a fancier next gen engine like that. I don't know if they've done that or not.
No.
Have they ever put I don't think they've ever put one of the PSP ones on the PS3 or anything like that.
Not as such. They took Try and spread that out a little bit, but it was still the same engine.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'm sort of hoping that they already have like something in the chamber for the PS5 generation.
Yeah.
You can pre-order to get a golden retriever as your doggo.
Best doggo.
What is more popular in America, golden retrievers or black Labradors?
Golden retrievers by far.
Labrador is just one generic unit of dog.
Yeah, black lab is best dog, but they are not nearly as popular for some reason.
Like, borders are most popular in New Zealand by a country mile.
Yeah, they're
like,
pretty
everybody has a
Australia
border.
as well.
Yeah, they're popular here.
We're a country full of sheep. Of course, the borders are going to be the most popular.
So yeah, more Monster Hunter. I'm always happy for more Monster Hunter. And I can see where they're coming from. Like when World was announced to be on the PS4, there was a lot of disappointed people in Japan because there's a massive portable market for Monster Hunter over there.
Yeah, I would be way behind this title if I thought that any such thing could be established in the West, but I just don't see it happening. Especially not now that everybody's all Coof obsessed.
Yes.
This seems really weird. Japan isn't as Koof obsessed as the West is, so yeah, it just doesn't seem like this is aimed at the West at all. This seems like it's to appease the Japanese audience.
Yeah.
Which is reasonable considering they're the ones that have propped up the franchise for goodness knows how long.
Yes.
Yeah, so they can have one on the Switch,
They can have it.
and they can pay for the Golden Retriever amiibo.
Well, I think the Switch is a good compromise because you can use that as a a home console. You don't have to use it as a portable. So I think that in a sense, the Switch is sort of like the ideal console for the Monster Hunter franchise, especially in Japan. But it's not what I want. I want something show-stoppingly gorgeous to fight a monster on.
Yeah, we did get that with World, but now we have this new generation of allegedly superior technology.
I want to see what it looks like if you ratchet that up even further. Like I want to see it because their environments and their monsters are just so incredible.
The amount of detail they stick into it.
And they got the RE7 engine worked out now that has really, really good everything on it. And is an absolutely amazing engine. They could totally use that and retrofit a Monster Hunter onto it. That would look amazing.
All right, we should start looking at wrapping up.
Because you've got to go and work. Because we got old and now we have jobs.
Damn it.
But
Can we unwork or unload?
I don't want to do work at job.
At least your job lets you sit by the phone and farm on FGO.
We did have one other little thing we could quickly touch on is Final Fantasy 16 has been announced and Yoshi P is heading it.
And it looks very Final Fantasy.
Yes, it's got crystals, it's got summons, although they're calling them icons again. But most importantly, it does not look like Final Fantasy 15, which I am very pleased about because I did not like 15.
Boy Band Road Trip 2016 or whatever it was.
Featuring the Spice Girls.
Yes.
It did not look like Final Fantasy. It did not feel like Final Fantasy. It did not sound like Final Fantasy. I didn't like it. Maybe there is a way to play it where it's cool, but I did not experience that.
If you know somebody that can mail us the proper play and watch order to get a great experience out of that, we will not do it again, but we might send it to somebody new that wants to try it.
I bought that game. I paid up front for it. It was a game.
It was bad.
I played it sort of like a start to finish one shot through, and I have never felt any desire to play it again.
It hit PS Plus this month.
Oh,
yeah.
Didn't it? But
and Abel's been playing it, and I have had to rattle my brain to remember anything about the game.
It's like
dry toast.
I never finished Final Fantasy IX, but that was because for a long time it was unpurchasable, and I had an emulated copy where there was a scratch on the disc or something because it would just bug out when you got to the end of disc 1 or something. Generally speaking, I'm usually keen to play a Final Fantasy again, but that was absolutely not the case for 15. I got to the end of it and I was relieved that it was over. It's like, it's done. I can say I finished it. I don't care to do the DLC. The story was kind of dumb anyway, like really dumb, and most of it happens off screen, and none of it happens anywhere interesting. Like it was just I am astonished that people think that 8 is a bad Final Fantasy when you compare it with 15.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you've got to be kidding me. That game is awful.
It is really bad.
Well, I don't even know whether or not it's awful because what stands out in my mind the most about it is that it doesn't feel remotely like a Final Fantasy. It's something else entirely.
It barely even feels like a video game. It's
a lot of the time it doesn't. Yeah, it's not. They don't even give you the dignity of participating in QuickTime events.
Like the gameplay is hold the attack button, and your auto potions will heal you and your team.
Yeah,
that's it.
More or less the optimal way to play. I mean, that at least in Final Fantasy 12, you had to do a strange programming exercise in order to get the combat to work. Like that was a weird Final Fantasy, man. It was even more off base than 15 in some ways. You know, since you had to do basically programming, you had to program your party and customize their behaviors as a series of conditions and else if statements. So that was weird, but at least it resembled Final Fantasy in some ways, although it was another one sort of off the beaten path. But this one, like, we can't see a lot about how this game will be executed in practical terms, and there may be a push from an executive level to do more sort of Final Fantasy 15-ish things at times. I don't really know, but at least it looks like a Final Fantasy because it is sort of in a high fantasy setting. It does have, you know, a crippling obsession with crystal, but yeah, it smells like a Yoshi P project, and he has done great things for 14. I'm hoping he can do great things for 16 as well. Most importantly, the thing that crippled 15 was very, very poor production management, and Yoshi P is the man who pulled the production management of 14 off the trash heap and made it into a smash hit. So
Yes.
at least I can be hopeful that it will be less of a disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh me, oh my.
All right. So we end on a hopeful note, at least.
And bad memories of Boy Band Road Trip 15 featuring the Spice Girls.
Ugh. All right, let's wrap up then.
All right. Email topic of the week. I actually want y'all to talk about the new consoles. I'm genuinely interested in what y'all have to say about the new consoles and what you think of their current status, what they're doing with everything.
Honestly, I think the overwhelming opinion that is floating about is that there's no reason to upgrade yet.
Yeah.
Outside of the
been
people who
reacting
are
with meh.
Yeah, outside of the people who are early adopters by principle, like, oh, it's a new piece of technology, therefore I buy it. Outside of that segment of the population, people just seem to not care.
Yeah.
Maybe that Souls community are all on board because of Demon Souls, and that's what they're really planning on. But yeah, I don't know. It just seems like a resounding meh to me. Is what I'm seeing.
It's a system mover for some people for sure, but I don't think the Souls contingent is as big as people think it is.
Couple of Souls to Ratchet and Clank and all the people who will be anticipating God of War 2. Well, we've reset the numbers, so now it's God of War 2.
God of War 2.
Yeah, God of War 2. Except God of War 2 follows God of War 1.
God of Boy.
So I don't really get it.
I don't know.
God of Boy. So we'll just have to call it God of Boy 1 and God of Boy 2.
Yes.
Although I don't know whether or not Boy is in the second one. I don't know what happens in the first one. For all I know, Boy dies. So, because everybody else surrounding Kratos seems to die anyway. So
he tends to get angry, and when he gets angry, he gets stabby.
I don't know if I actually finished the game. I can't remember.
Usually finish games.
It was one stock standard unit AAA game. Sometimes those just become so blah, I forget about them.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. But I thought you would be talking this week about the Oculus thing.
I haven't read much into it.
They've abandoned the Rift platform entirely in favor of a Quest 2 exclusively.
Yeah, that's a little sad, but it's not too unexpected.
And they want you to sell them a piece of your soul in order to use it.
Yeah, that's not happening. I will continue to use Oculus Link and their workarounds for the Facebook stuff until it is no longer feasible, and then I will look at purchasing another headset of a different brand that is going to let me use a PC with a proper oomph behind it to play VR games.
I expect that the Rift 2 is going to be hacked to hell and back by the time anybody actually starts using it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Nobody's going to want to give Facebook their pound of flesh.
Bookface. Yeah.
They are quite mad at Oculus Tray Tool for just saying, yeah, we're just going to constantly find a workaround for this garbage. Because nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, welcome to the cracking wars.
Ugh. All right, let's do the thing.
All right, folks. Closing comments go.
I don't want to work.
I need more lotto boxes.
Ew.
Nay.
No.
Well, there's no horse VTuber yet.
Yet.
Find us a
There-
girl.
there-
We can work on that.
If Uma Musume becomes popular, then there will be.
All right. Take us out.
All right, folks. I think we're done. We'll see you next week. Sayonara. Bye-bye.